This was shot in 1990.
Excuse me, girls. Hey, Evan, out of the room.
Hang up the phone and make me, why don't you? What time do you have to go to bed?
Early. We're leaving the house at 8 a.m. on the button.
I hope you're all drinking milk. I want to get rid of it.
And this was shot last year.
I have much to attend to with the wizard's unexpected departure, so if there are no further questions, I'm gonna go.
Why does one feel warm, textured, and so alive, and other one just kind of falls flat? It's not just nostalgia. Let me tell you why. I'm gonna start with this one because I think this is most overlooked these days, and that's texture and production design. Look at every frame in Home Alone. It's so textured, deep, the house looks lived in. There are textured wallpapers, paintings, pictures, frames everywhere, carpets, so many different colors and layers. There is detail in every frame. Contrast is super deep, and the house is not generically super clean like you can see in a lot of these modern movies. It actually looks lived in. There's clothes around, there's a mess, there's a lot of people, and it actually sells the whole Christmas family gathering chaos idea because it looks that way and makes us feel that way as well. It doesn't look fake. And it was all shot mostly on practical locations. There are no big studios, there are no green screens, there are no like the new OLED screens behind the actors. It's real locations, and that's what brings in the texture even more because actors can immerse themselves even more, and there is so much detail and thought put into the production design because it has to be done before the actual shooting. You have to think every little piece through because once it's shot, it's done. There's no changing it. So there is so much artistry and craft going into it and making that frame look the best that it can possibly look. And you know, there's no safety net that you can fall on later and say, oh, we'll just add, you know, more texture and more Christmas vibes in post. And that's why that's what makes it super warm feeling and actually alive, and like it is Christmas and so textured, warm, and you might now say nostalgic. And one of the things I also think gives it a lot more depth and a lot more texture is that the entire movie is not shot at the aperture of like t2.1 or something super shallow. There is like a lot of scenes are shot with the aperture that is fairly closed, and your eye can then scan around the frame and look for those details because that's kind of how we naturally see the world. We don't, when we look at one person, we don't see everything else blurry in the background. Now, I'm not saying that you should never use like T2.1. Sure, it's great for, you know, dark scenes or when you want to really make the character center of the frame and, you know, make them feel like kind of they're in their own world. Sure, it's fantastic for that. But when you're shooting wides, like in Home Alone, and you're trying to sell a story, I think shooting at the aperture of like T5 or even like more closed up, it's beautiful because it gives you so much texture in the frame, especially when it's combined with such a beautiful set design, and I think it works beautifully, and I think that's kind of what modern movies are also lacking. Besides that digital feeling and, you know, kind of we'll save our asses in post, so not that much artistry even goes in prepping the frame, but also everything is shot at super shallow depth of field because we were thought it looks cinematic, but we kind of lost the artistry of actually making the frame look cinematic and not just making it a blurry mess. The next thing I would say is really important in making Home Alone feel so textured and actually like a film is lighting. The lighting is super contrasty. There are a lot of practicals in the frames and it all combines beautifully together. A lot of modern movies now are shot on sound stages, and there is a lot of people online actually complaining about so-called Netflix lighting. In translation, everything looks like it's shot for commercial. Everything is super evenly lit, faces are beautiful. There are no actual contrasts on people's faces and in the backgrounds because everything is so evenly commercially lit, which was beautiful for commercials. It works for commercials, but for the movies, I don't think it works so nicely, and it makes the image fall flat and look not so cinematic. Home Alone is beautiful because there is so much contrast in the image, and we are taught, as the cameras are getting better and better, we are all taught to fear the so-called loss of information in the blacks and in the shadows. But when you watch Home Alone, those cameras sure had a limitation of not having such a great dynamic range, but there is so many like instances where the blacks and shadows are crushed and there is so-called lost information, which a lot of filmmakers, this might be a hot take, but which a lot of filmmakers would be shitting on and be like, no, that's not properly lit because you're losing information. But do you see how beautifully contrasty that looks? It's such a beautiful contrast, and it gives so much character and so much like interest to the image, and it makes it beautiful. And that's, I think, something that I messed up on when color grading Circle of the Soul. I color graded it initially and I think it looked okay. It was my first time color grading something so high-end. But then I was like, oh my god, no, look at it, the like vector scopes and shit. There's so much like loss of information. I have to brighten it up and bring it all back up so it doesn't lose information. And I think it looks kind of worse now, but it is what it is because again, you live and you learn, and it's a filmmaking journey and a process. But I think the contrast and the actual embracing of so-called loss of information can actually be good sometimes because it gives you so much grit and texture. And of course, there are so many practical lights all over the sets. There is such beautiful scenes with, you know, actual Christmas lights and reflections of Christmas lights that look beautiful. There are lamps, windows, everything looks beautifully cohesive and everything looks like it belongs there. And there is a lot of like just general texture with the contrast of light and shadow, and light is also motivated, which gives it actual, like your brain gives you kind of a signal, okay, yeah, that light does make sense. Now it may seem like I may be shitting on modern movies, but why do modern movies feel so flat? Some people may say because the cameras are, you know, have super higher dynamic range and there is not that much contrast, which can be partially true, but that's not, you know, the entire truth. There is a lot more to it. There are faster shooting schedules, the budgets are more tight. It's not more about, you know, the artistry of making something new and indie filmmaking, and it's a lot of like, you know, on track, just shoot something because it has to be done and it has to be a great box office hit because people with the budgets are actually in control of what the movie is going to be like and not the artists themselves, which is a big problem, especially now with the Netflix buying Warner Bros. And, you know, it's whole shebang and thing, which I'm not going to get into in this video. But yeah, faster schedules, tighter budgets. There are a lot more people who want to decide on how film is going to look like, and they are not, you know, just filmmakers, which should be the ones who are deciding how film is going to look like. And everything looks more flat, and which is not necessarily bad. Flat just means flexible in post, because there is a lot more, you know, situations happening where there is just no time to make those super big decisions. So they're like, okay, let's shoot everything fairly flat so we can choose in post, you know, everything what we're gonna put behind the actors and how we're gonna relight them, if we're gonna relight them. And yeah, sure, flat does mean flexible, but it also means kind of a loss of this beautiful craft. So yeah, I cannot shit on modern movies too much because the times have changed, situation is what it is. But yeah, those are some reasons I think why modern movies do look the way they look now, which does feel more flat rather than what we used to call cinematic and beautiful. So what can we as indie filmmakers actually learn from those big movies that look so flat? Well, since we don't have that big budgets for, let's say, VFX and relighting in post, be super intentional with the way you light your scenes. Make everything look the way you want to look in camera already. Don't, you know, just make it so you can cover your ass and, you know, relight it in post. I mean, relighting in post is great if you made a mistake on set that you didn't notice, but make it really intentional. You know, have an emotion, have a vibe that you want to convey to your viewer, and light and make the scene look that way and feel that way in the camera with the lighting, you know? Get the contrast, get the warm and cool color temperatures, get the saturated, you know, colors. Don't be afraid to introduce more color in your color grade, because a lot of movies nowadays are color graded with really natural toned down tones, which is again not necessarily bad, but we are kind of stepping away from more colorful color grades, which is a shame because they look quite beautiful. Don't be afraid of contrast. Introduce shadows, introduce crushed blacks, which we are so feared and thought that they are horrible. But they make your film and they make your scene look a lot more cinematic and a lot more gritty. And of course, pay attention to the set design. Make it beautiful. Don't just, you know, put a camera in a room and call it a day. Put the paintings on the wall. Introduce some practical lighting. Do interesting curtains. You know, it doesn't have to be like super expensive things, but just, you know, go to the like nearest dollar store, buy a couple of super cheap like painting frames, and, you know, put the stock images in there from like Pixabay or something. Make it look interesting. Put a lot of fake plants or real plants in the scene. Make it have texture. Make your viewer, when he's watching your scene, have a lot of things around besides, you know, the actor in the wide shot to look at, because they're not going to focus on those things, but they're gonna really invest themselves in the story, because it gives so much texture and so much context to in which world your character is living in. And of course, don't be afraid to make the set and the scene look messy and not perfect. Like a lot of filmmakers nowadays and a lot of films nowadays, like the houses look super clean and not even lived in. Like the Home Alone gets it perfectly right with the entire like chaos of, there's like 3 families in the house and the house is a mess. And it's beautiful. Like, it's a mess. Sure, you're not gonna say, oh wow, that doesn't look good, because it's a mess. Of course, it's a mess. It's not gonna look beautifully and elegant, but it's not supposed to look beautiful and elegant. It's supposed to look real and lived in. And that's what brings out the emotion in the viewer, because he sees it and he can, you know, connect with it and be like, oh my God, my house is exactly like that for Christmas. So avoid those like super empty, plain, super like hygienically clean scenes, because they are not realistic. Don't be afraid to introduce some grit, some, you know, messiness, some dishes in the sink. Yeah, they don't look the most beautiful, but they sell a story. They connect your character to the people and to the viewer. And of course, yeah, have some practical lights, practical plans, make your frame look interesting, and don't shoot the entire film at like T 1.8, 2.8, 2.1. Like, close that aperture a bit up. Let the viewer see the texture that you have in your frame. So instead of watching Home Alone this year purely for nostalgia, watch it as a filmmaker. Notice those beautiful shadows, contrasts, set designs. So many little decisions that went into making those frames and shots look as beautiful as they do. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope I inspired you to make something. Like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.